Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Now that the rain is over, the sun is shining, I have a lot of catching up to do here in the garden, starting with harvesting my broccoli. It looks so great. Let's go take a look. We have waited as long as we possibly could, and so today is the day to harvest our lovely broccoli crowns. This is one of 4 really big broccoli crowns I've just harvested. They look fantastic. They've not turned, they've not flowered, and so I cannot wait to take these inside and have them for dinner one day soon. It was a very successful crop. I wish we had more than 6 plants, but that's what we had. Now, what I will show you next, I want to turn my camera around. On the remaining plants, we do have some small little florets that are continuing to grow, so we'll keep harvesting little bits of broccoli, but today was the major harvest. Here are all those little teeny tiny florets that are growing. They're popping out here, there, and everywhere. And we will have those continuing to bud out on all 6 of the plants. There was that head that I just harvested off the center, but there are already florets off to the left-hand side. So we will continue to get some broccoli off of these plants for, I bet, the next week or 2, if not more. Fresh produce like this, I don't want to have sitting out in the hot sun for too long. So I'll take it into the house and then come back because I see we have collards that need to be picked, maybe even more kale, and who knows what else I'll get up to because I know I've got a lot of catching up to do. As I'm exiting the garden with my broccoli, I am seeing signs of several garden pests I might have to also turn my attention to today. If it's not one thing, it's another around here. Next up, I have my sugar snap peas. They are coming in strong, and I can't wait to see how many I pick today. That's the first one. A little bit like treasure hunting out here looking for sugar snaps. They're hidden pretty well sometimes, and it's not uncommon to overlook some. I've got a few here. You know, if you overlook them for too many days, they get big and tough, but these look perfect. We eat a lot of our sugar snaps raw, but we'll also blanch and freeze some when we get a large surplus. When my peas are fairly robust and start kind of falling away from their trellis line like they are here, I like to come back with some string just to help shore them up so that they don't flop too far off to the side. I really want them to stay tight to the fence here and not try to grow up the perimeter fence. It just makes it a lot harder to harvest that way. So I do want to come back at some point, if not today, one day soon, and tie these up. Now that I've finished with my sugar snaps, let's go see about those collard greens. I harvested these last just before the rain, so it's been about a week now, and I'm gonna say these leaves are even larger and more robust than the ones I picked a week ago. I do want to show you there's a black flea beetle right here on the tip of my collard leaf. That is just one of the several pests that we have currently in the garden. Harvesting collards is nice. They're really easy just to snap and to place into your bucket. You know, some crops need to come out with a knife, but not for your collards. They're very tender, and like I say, they look great. They're not too buggy, so this is just the right time to be picking them. I don't know if you can tell, I've got a 4-legged friend hiding underneath my collards here. Oh, I had my kitty cat Frankie under there. Hi, buddy. Today, I am only choosing to harvest the extra large leaves because the conditions have been so wonderful for growing as of late. The collard plants are growing at a very fast rate, and I will just let these medium-sized leaves have a few more days, but I still see, you know, a few more large ones that definitely are worth picking today. For a second picking of collards, a bucket like this will probably yield another 2 meals. I believe I froze 4 bags of blanched collard leaves the other day. So far, this little crop is doing really well. My little cat Shrimp has found a nice shady spot in the garden. He seems pretty content there. This last crop behind me is turning out to be a bit of a mystery crop. It's the last thing I have to harvest today. And I want to say a little bit about this because there is a lot going on with this silly little bed. I planted old seeds, which I often do, but I couldn't read the writing because it was so faded on the bag, the packaging. I assumed this was kale, and so I planted it and it came up. We harvested some back before the rain, and I just cooked them last night. Well, as they were cooking, they didn't smell like kale. It smelled a lot more like a pot full of mustard greens. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what I have here. I thought it was kale, but I think this crop has perhaps fooled me. Luckily, my husband and I are pretty good sports when it comes to eating our vegetables, and we don't really care what sort of greens they are. So this crop, whatever it is happy, it's healthy, it's thriving. I'm gonna pick it and we will eventually eat it. But I'm a little sad that they don't seem to be kale because I really do love kale. I like how mild kale is, and mustard greens certainly have a little more of a sharp taste to them. But because these are so tender, they're still pretty good. So let me see how many I can pick today. Like the collards, these greens are really easy to pick. I can just snap them with my hands. And I am choosing to once again pick everything that is sort of this darker, more mature green. The lighter green, I'll give a few more days to grow. So I'm going for the large leaves as well as the darker leaves. So I ended up with a pretty good bucket full. This is the second harvest of what I think now are mustard greens. When you cook them, they are quite smelly, and so maybe don't cook them if you're having house guests over that evening, unless you know they like mustard greens. That's the only thing I have to say. Because they're tender, they're not super strong, and we've caught them at just the right time. But that was quite a surprise. I really thought we had kale here in the garden. Fooled me. All of this rain was great for the crops, but it's made a bit of a mess of my pathways. I don't have cardboard down on all of them yet. Today, I'm hopeful to get more down because, as you can see, there are some really deep mud holes here all along the edge. My boots are just kind of like sinking down into the mud. So I do want to get more cardboard down because these will be heavily trafficked areas now that we're harvesting regularly. And I really don't want to continue to be up to my ankles in mud every time it rains. I mean, look how deep that one boot step was in the mud. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Cardboard will definitely help. As you can see behind me, I do have a few paths that already have cardboard. They were there before the rain, and just yesterday in between showers, I was able to lay a little more down by my okra and my peppers. But today it's nice, it's sunny, I've got more time to work with, and so I am hoping to put a lot more cardboard down, and we'll see how many paths I get covered. I'm sure I won't cover them all, but it will be a step in the right direction. I'm glad to see my kitty cat has moved because I will use this black wheelbarrow to go and fetch cardboard. We have several garden pests. We have squash bugs. We have cucumber beetles, the little yellow and black striped beetles. And I've also seen some black flea beetles. But the cucumber beetles and the squash bugs are what seem to be wreaking havoc on my squash and zucchini, which is why I need to dust them today. Before I try to dust these plants, I first want to pick off by hand as many squash bugs as possible. I always have a bug jug close to these particular crops because I do know from past experience squash bugs are going to be an ongoing issue here in the garden all summer long. The diatomaceous earth should help though. What I've not had experience with in the past are these little yellow striped cucumber beetles. I've seen them in the garden, but I've never seen them do so much damage to a crop as they are to my zucchini. They seem to have an affinity for the zucchini even over the squash next door. But everything will get a good dusting today, and hopefully we can deter that. I know the little teeny tiny black flea beetles I showed you earlier, those have been really, really hard on other crops. I can see where those were nibbling on my potatoes. I've seen them on my eggplants before, and they were also really, really hard on the bok choy. So those are the 3 garden pests that we have had in the garden so far this spring. I know there will be more, but hopefully a little dusting of DE today will help to deter a lot of this action that's happening and the damage that's taking place. These leaves have been nibbled on so much. I mean, Some of them are almost unrecognizable. It's just something I've never experienced before. Here is a little teeny striped cucumber beetle right here. You can see that he is feasting on the leaf. They've laced my leaves quite badly. This here on the right-hand side, these are my zucchini plants, and they seem to have taken the hardest hit in comparison to the squash that is on the row next door. Now the squash has been nibbled on. I can see where these leaves on the end certainly have chew marks and holes all through them, but it's nothing compared to my poor zucchini. Oh my goodness. But enough about the bugs. Now back to cardboard. After gathering my cardboard, I want to sort my cardboard so that when I start to lay down my pathways, my paths can be more or less uniform. This is just one of several paths. I have a little more cardboard down, a few more paths protected. You can see my cucumbers are in this L-shaped. They will someday be climbing along the fence line here that's held up by the T-posts. And you can see we do have a little more cardboard down here on the lower end of our garden, surrounding our peppers, our eggplants, and our okra are down at the very bottom. So I still have more paths that need protecting, but I think for today, that's a pretty good start. One more area I want to show you is where I was picking the mustard greens. It was so muddy, it was really deep. This area has now been covered by cardboard. My path is protected, no more ankle deep mud, and hopefully this will also help to deter the weeds. It's starting to get really warm out here, so I will soon want to head indoors, but first I do need to spray my squash and zucchini. I say spray, really I'm dusting them with diatomaceous earth. It's a little breezy, which is not ideal, but I want to get on top as well as underneath the leaves as best I can, trying to let these little gusts of wind pass us by first. But you can see I've already dusted the first half of my zucchinis, and then I'll move my way over to the squash on the second row. These dusters, sometimes it just comes out really thick like that. If you can get a thinner, I'm going to hold off for this breeze to stop. If you can get it thinner, that's great. You just don't need that much. But sometimes you're at the mercy of your sprayer, your spritzer, your duster, whatever you want to call these silly things. This stuff is not harmful to me, so I'm not so concerned that the wind is kicking it up. And that is just nice. As a gardener, I don't have to worry about what I'm putting on my plants when it comes to my health. Because I can see where something is also chewing on my potatoes, I'm going to take, it was 7 once upon a time, but it's empty now. I've refilled it with just the DE, the diatomaceous earth, and I'm going to shake a little on top of my potato plants, hopefully to help deter whatever is nibbling on them. I suspect it's a flea beetle, but again, they don't need to be littered with holes because they have a long growing season left ahead of them. So I'm going to sprinkle this on, and then I think I'm going to call it quits for the day. I actually feel like sometimes I can get a more targeted dusting with a hand shaker such as this versus the dusters that I was using earlier, but the dusters do give a more thorough coating when they do just right. You know, when they behave properly, you can get a more even disbursement of whatever you're applying. But again, a simple shaker such as this will also get the job done. And I'm just reusing an old container that was empty. Thank you so much for joining me today in the garden. I got a lot accomplished, starting with harvesting our broccoli. It looks so great. I then had a few other crops that were ready after the cool, wet week we've just had. And then I had to move my attention to covering those muddy paths with cardboard. I love cardboard. It's a great weed deterrent as well. I still have more cardboard to lay down, but today was a good start. And then lastly, I did have to work on dusting some of my plants. The insects have been really bad so far this spring. The flea beetles, the squash bugs, and then the cucumber beetles. Those 3 pests have already been wreaking havoc in the garden. So I did have to dust. I'll keep you posted on how the plants do, and I hope you are having a wonderful spring wherever you are. Happy gardening, and check back soon. Bye guys.